Everybody, happy Friday. Want to make sure that we're all up and running and get everything going. Let me hold on 1 second. Sorry for that. It's always an interesting doing these, right? And just making sure our sound and all that stuff, and it was coming through one of my systems, so wanted to just get that turned off. But we aren't here to talk about sound and all that fun stuff. Let's actually talk about what we're trying to do today, which is creating templates to build better facilitator guides. While we going about this, what I'd love in the chat, if you could, take a look at these 5 pictures and let's figure out which one of these, and let me know in the chat, like I said in the chat, which one of these best represents where you currently are in your facilitator guide template position, right? Where you are currently in that process. So as those are coming in, we'll talk about them. But today, let's dive in. It's going to be a little bit theoretical, but I actually want to show you some things where you can actually put these into action. So let's get started. All right, so simple enough. Why do we use templates? Why should we use templates? If we're not using them, why should you put them into place? If you are using them, are they effectively doing this? So for me, it breaks down to 3 main things that we really should be considering while we use templates. One is we're looking to save time, right? Especially now, it seems like we now have more to do in less time with less of a workforce. So templates are a way that we can expedite and be more effective in our creation of materials. So we're looking at it from guidebooks, but these concepts will apply to anything that you may use templates for. All right, so 1, we're looking to save time. 2, we want more consistency, right? Obviously, we want consistency across development. We want consistency across training. We want consistency across, we'll call it learning for the participants. And templates are a way that we can easily, push ourselves closer to that goal. So we're looking for save time. We're looking for consistency. And lastly is we don't always want to start from a blank page, right? That sometimes ties into consistency. It ties into, just drawing a blank. It ties into saving time. But the worst place you could ever be is from a blank page, right? So, and I'd lay this out into what I called our 90% rule, right? 90% of the time we should be doing this. And so 90% of the time, these templates are going to get exactly what I need to get done. And so I don't have to think about it. I don't have to put energy into it. And I can look at other things I can do instead. I can put that time and energy into something else. So that's why we're looking to use templates. So when I say many, not one, what I want you to really think about is not having one template for my facilitator guide, right? And in that template, I have, a cover page, and I have my copyright page, and I have all the upfront material that I need, and everything's in one document. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues people have is they try to do one template to cover everything. And templates are good. Templates can be really good, but they're dumb. Like they're not smart, right? Templates do one thing, and then as we try to do other things with them, it's like the phone game. Remember that game where someone would say something, and then they'd whisper it over to the next person, and that person would listen and whisper it to the next person, and it would go down the line, and then you would compare to what was the thing that the first person said compared to what the last person said, and they were completely different. This is what can happen with templates, especially if we're using just one. So I'm going to show this in a few minutes, but how can we use multiple templates to get what we need, right? So, and what it also allows us to do is basically consider the end result. So let's take Stephen Covey's second habit of highly effective people, begin with the end in mind. what's our guidebook that we're building, right? Or the document that we're building, right? So let's say we're building a facilitator guide for a 45-minute or an hour and a half virtual training, right? What's needed in that guidebook could be completely different than what is necessarily for our 3-week blended learning new hire program, right? There's still components that are going to be the same across the board, but the amount of, let's say, upfront material could be different, right? We still want to make sure our guidebooks hit the 3 roles of the facilitator guide, right? That it's an in-the-moment reference aid, say this, do this, ask this. It's a study guide so that we can make sure that if I'm leading it or you're leading it or it's happening in Oklahoma or it's happening in Boston, that the same material is being able to be delivered, right? So we want to ensure all of those so that, first that it's in the moment reference aid, that's a study guide, and lastly, that it's a ruling document. Everything that you would possibly need to lead that course is in there, right? So maybe that in that virtual training guidebook, we don't necessarily need a huge laundry list of everything that we need to lead that course that could be needed in the facility, in the 3-week new hire orientation program, but we need the instructions on how to use breakout rooms in Zoom or how to upload files into WebEx, right? So when looking at our guidebooks, what are the individual pieces that need to be going into each type of guidebook? And let's make those individual pieces into templates. So that's when I say, not one, but many, that's really the concept that I'm talking about. So let's kind of see this a little bit in action. All right. So we're going to first, I always like to kind of say, hey, here's what I think a lot of people are doing, show you where we're at, and let's show you a different way to go about it. So I am going to, let's come over here, right? We're going into the #1 search engine, Google, right? And I already have it in here, but facilitator guide templates. Let's say we go and search this out. We scroll down, or obviously Google, the first few things are always ads. Then you can get into some of the images, and I was happy to see that several of the templates that Leader Guide Pro are, our My Small Family Business software that helps people build stuff out are in here. So what I'm going to show you today is if you were going to manage this all on your own. There are tools like ours that will help you do this a lot faster and a lot easier, and it's a lot less work. But I want to show you how you can do it on your own yourself. But if you ever want to see stuff, let me know. And obviously we've got some of our things right up in here. But I'm actually going to scroll down and I'm going to go to the first one, using this facilitator guide template. And it is actually just opening up a Word document at the bottom. So one of the nice things about the internet, right? We can find stuff out here, and this actually looks like, and love the government that they always put everything up on the internet, that here is a template that someone has set up within, I think this is the Department of Transportation. So I think my guess is a lot of times that we've got this kind of layout in facilitator guides or in your templates, right? That there's multiple pages, right? So if I look at this, we've got cover page, or they had a placeholder for a cover page. Then they've given a whole bunch of instructions here on, how they want you to use this cover page. Table of contents is in here, right? Then it's, all of these are everything's captured in this one template, which in one way, it's all in one location. But now when it comes time to manage that template, there's all these pieces that you have to do all at once. And then we'll see the way they've got this set up is anything that's in red text, this is stuff that they want you to go into, replace that red text, change over the text to what you want it to be, now change the font, all of those type of things. So, right, my guess is this is a lot like what a lot of people are doing. So let me show you a different way that you could go about this. All right, so we are going to pop back over. Here's straight into Word, and obviously lots of things going on in the background today. All right, so imagine what we could do if we go under, on Word, if we go into the into the Insert tab, and we're going to come over, and I'm going to drop over to where it says Objects, drop this down, and I'm going to choose Text from File. And what this does is it gives us the ability where we can insert multiple documents right into a page. So I've already set this up, so I've got a templates folder here. If I can get to it. So I choose templates. And on here, let's say I want to bring in my copyright page, and then I'm going to bring in my table of contents. We'll do those for right now. Right, and I'm going to just insert those in. And immediately, I've brought in, what I've set up as my template for my acknowledgements page. I've brought in my table of contents, right? Well, I also need a cover page, right? I can, up underneath the cover page section in the insert section, or the cover page drop down, I've gone in and I've created myself a little cover page that I've put into as a building block. And I can put this in. And so now, with just a few clicks of the mouse, I have already brought in, let me get the right button, I've got a cover page, I've got an acknowledgements page, I've got a table of contents, already in place, just a few mouse clicks, right? And I've set up things in here. I've put in fields, so like department or division, like where is this from? So let's say this is from the School of Rock. I can just type that in and it automatically replaces what was in there. I figured, maybe in this layout, I was always, depending on the program, I was always going to have an image, but the image was going to be dependent on the program itself. So I've gone in on my template and put in a field for pictures. So now all I need to do here is I can go in and select where that picture's coming from. So let's say from a file, right? And I can now choose where that image is, and here, this is the little thumbnail I use for this session today, but I can drop that in right now. And where the course name is, right, I can call this, Templates 101. And those fields are already in there when it's prompting it with the exact fonts and all the size, and it's all in my template. And just within a few moments, I've already put this in. And actually here, I wanted that on the second page. But like on the acknowledgements page, I've put in a revision date. So it's going to populate that date automatically when the document's created. And if later on I want to update it, right? And it's based off of the day we do it. So if I update it right now, it's not going to do anything. But here, actually, let's do this. Let's say it was 10/6. Right? So let's say this was originally built out on 10/6. Now I could come in, click update, and it would update it to the most recent date. So you don't necessarily have to always be typing stuff in. I can put it in as a field within it. Right? My table of contents is in here, right? And so notice one of the things I've done here, I have this red text that says the table of contents needs to be built out by clicking into it and selecting update table, right? Say very similar to the idea of, let me pop back over to this Word document, right? This red text, right? Where they were prompting you to do some things, but on here, they've put it as, note, delete this page after completing your facilitator guide. Okay, you could do that, but again, more work for the developer, where what I've done is I've made it hidden text, which is something that you can do underneath the home. If you go into the paragraph styles, into font, so if I drop down the little font menu, I can mark text as hidden. So now, if I turn off my paragraph marks, or if I look at this in print preview, that hidden text isn't there and it doesn't take up any space. So I can now provide prompts within my templates, but with some hidden text. Now, I've gone the route of putting into place some styles. I've created a hidden text style, right? So let's say, I'm just going to put in some other text here real quick, right? So there's some regular text. But if I highlight it, right, and I can either grab it out of my styles gallery, up here or in the styles box that I've opened up on the left-hand side. But if I choose hidden text, it will now make that the style that I set it up so that it was red text, that it was marked as hidden. And again, now if I turn this off, it goes away, right? So I've set up this template that I've pulled in using the insert feature, objects, text from file, which allows me to drop an entire file, an entire Word document into an existing Word document. So each template is its own individual piece, right? So we had our cover page, right? Put in that acknowledgements page. I've put in a table of contents. But, obviously you would probably have other templates for more of that study guide material. But I've also, click the wrong one. Sorry. Let me drop this down. Text from file again. And another one I put in a module template. And these aren't my actual working ones. It's just to kind of give you an example of what something could look like. But it's gone in, and so I have it set up with a module field where it's the module name. So let's call this customer service. Right? So all I needed to do was click into that field, and I can now start typing. And if I've set up the styles associated with that, so it gives it the look and feel that I want, I don't have to worry about it, right? It does that for me automatically versus being in this document and saying, all right, what's my course title? If I want to change this out here, I'd have to highlight it, right? Type this in, call it customer service, right? Now, to get this the way I wanted it, to get it the font, the size, the color, I'd have to come up and change the color, change the styles, all of those based off of the way this template was set up. So the proper way, the better way to do it is to create your templates and have all those fields already in there, right? So lesson name, what's my lesson name? Let's call this email etiquette, if I can spell today, right? And then time. And again, I would probably actually lay this out differently, but this was, again, just to show the concept. But how long are we going to spend in email etiquette? I can just type in 10 minutes into that field that I was prompting for time, right? Enter the headline, right? So what is this? We'll call this key points, right? And where the text is, and I'm just using some quick autocorrect things to make that go through easier. But I can put things in like that. And so my template was already set up, right? I could now, if I wanted, let's say, another lesson, I could come down under, the text from file, right? And I could now go in and I could choose my lesson template and put those in, right? So if you wanted your lesson to stay on that same page, right, you can. If not, let's say I wanted mine to be on a separate page, I'll just put in a page break. Right, and we'll call this complaints. Right, so and I can't spell, but you're kind of getting the idea, right? And again, I can put in my time, if I had headlines or things like that. The other way you can do it, underneath, still under the insert section, you can use the quick parts. And here, I've created what I'm calling a content block row. So when I select that, it goes in, and I've said it's set up as a table, but again, I've put in a little placeholder here for a picture, right? So maybe I want it to be an icon. I could go in and I could select the icon I wanted to use. I could put this in, right? Now, you can get into all the, formatting and all that stuff. Like if I wanted the outline of my thing to be, blue and all that stuff, I can do all those things. But again, maybe some sort of headline, right? And then whatever text I wanted to go in there, right? And I'm able to now start just breaking this stuff out the way I need it. And I've got my, my template's set up to make this a lot easier for me. All right, so, I've kind of just showing this in action, right? And here's that table of contents, right? Because I already put this in here, I can just now come up and select Update Table. And based off of the styles that I've used on my, on my modules and my lessons, the table of contents is reading those, and it will build those out just by clicking Update Table. All right, so this is the concept behind it, right? So now, quickly, how do we kind of put this into action? So we'll create our own little template. So we'll save this out real quick and we'll call it that. I'm just going to create a new document. So we got a new Word document. Features that you're going to want to make sure, to get into some of these, you want to have the developer tab. So if you don't have it currently turned on, all you need to do is right click into the ribbon, like over in the gray space. So let me show you that again. Right, so in any of the gray space on the Word ribbon, select Customize the ribbon. And you're going to get a dialog box, the Word Options dialog box. And on the right-hand side is showing you everything that's currently in your ribbon. You just need to scroll down till you see the Developer tab. If you don't see it, it will be unchecked. Put a check mark next to it, and you'll get that. So we'll click OK, because mine's already in there. So under the Developer tab, and what we can do on this Developer tab, really, we want to look at the Controls section. Items that are going to be in here, the two that I'm using, one is the Picture Control content, which we'll put in a box. When we click on that, will give us that field to insert an image. And now I can right click into this and I can size and position and say, like, if I knew I wanted that picture to come in and I always wanted it to be 3 inches by 5 inches, right? It would set that up appropriately. Actually, what I didn't do here is if I wanted it 3 by 5, I need to make sure lock aspect ratio is not turned on. So we'll now make it 3 by 5. So now in this, there's always a field here for that picture. So that's the first one, and I got that again in the control section, top row, kind of middle choice. Looks like the picture, called Picture Content Control. The other one that I'm currently using is in the bottom, where it's little drop down. And in the legacy forms, I'm using this text form fields. And when we select that, it will put in a field where your cursor was currently located. And if you double click into that, I can now enter in the text that I want to be in the field, right? So like insert name here, right? And now I've got a block that's prompting me for that information. So what's the name, now as a person, as a user of this document, they could just click into this and that field is prompting them for the information, but when they click into it and type, the field disappears. So it's a nice way to get around that. All right. So let's just say we're going to make a new cover page. So, maybe I wanted to have a field up here called, wrong box. I'm going to put in a field and we'll call this, company. If I could spell. All right, so now I've got a field for that. And then, maybe over on the, after that, we want to put in a picture that's going to be a specific size. So we'll do a size and position, and you can either size it that way, or you could drag the corners. But again, in the beginning, it comes in as a square. So if you want a different aspect ratio, you do need to come in here. Make sure you uncheck that. And let's just say 4 by 6. so we get the ratio that we want, and then you can kind of drag it to the size that you need it to be. All right, and then let's just call it Facilitator Guide. Right. And if you want to just, you can just do some direct formatting it if you didn't want it so that things change, where things would change on it. But, I'm just going to say, we're just going to go like this. Keep it nice and simple. All right, so I've built this out. So I can now either just, and I would recommend saving it as its own document, right? Just file save as, or file save. Put it where you want it to be. I'll call it CP2 for cover page 2. Right? And I'm going to put it in my templates folder. If I can find it. All right, so we've got that in there. What you can also do, if you want to get it so it shows up into this cover page icon, insert and then drop down the cover page, what you're able to do, if you highlight that everything on that page, go over to Quick Parts on the Insert tab, and we're going to scroll down and we're going to choose Save Selection to the Quick Parts Gallery. And so now it's going to prompt you for a name, so we'll call this CP2. Now, where do you want to put it? This is called where it's talking about the gallery. These are the different places you can put it. I want it to go into as a cover page. And then what I would also do for options, where it says insert content only, I would put insert content in its own page. We'll click OK. So now, unzoom this. Let's just start up a new Word document. Right, so I've got a blank Word document here. And let's say I want to put in that new cover page I just created. Drop down cover page. There it is under CP2. Right? And I can drop that in. Right? And now, I want a different image in there. Let's go stock images. And I don't know. We'll choose this one. Choose that. Image goes in, and now again I can now start coming in and laying in. Under Objects, Text from File, selecting the different pieces that I want to go in, and I can quickly start building those out. So obviously learning some of the features that Word's going to offer to you is going to make it a lot easier. Obviously, if you don't use Word, if you use another program, you use InDesign or Publisher, figure out their process. But again, I would keep it down as simple as into the smallest pieces possible. And then determine, all right, for my virtual training, I need these 4 templates, right? I need the cover page, I need the copyright page, I need modules and lessons, and maybe some of these other ones. And so now you're able to do this. The other nice thing is you can now take those those individual templates, I mean, they're truly, in this case, Word documents, put them up in a shared space that anyone can access. So now if I'm building, or you're building, or Bob's building, we all can pull from the same source materials. And if a change happens, it just has to happen in one document, and we don't quickly get out of hand because what you've changed on, in that major document, I haven't, and we set up a process. And this is the other part with templates are only as good as the process that you use to employ them, right? So if everyone starts with that same template, and we're not basically storing them in a central location that everyone's accessing each time, we quickly get into that name game where I whisper something to you and you whisper to somebody, and it goes down the line and keeps going down the line. And that last person's result is completely different than the results or what you had talked about, right? So this is how we can even with templates, can get completely disparate looks and feels within our material, which makes a bad experience for our facilitators, right? They don't know what to expect because I built one way and you built one a different way, right? It's a bad experience for the learners because it's not, we have facilitators who are now struggling with the material, right? Maybe there's a lot more reading, there's less engagement, all of those, it's a cascading effect. So that's really the concept behind this. So to kind of wrap this up, big thing, break it again, smaller chunks, smaller pieces, individual pieces that we're going to take. Think of them like Lego bricks. We're going to stack them together to build out exactly what we need. So many individual templates. If you're using Word, make sure you've got that developer tab on, right? Look at using form fields versus just putting in text, right? And I didn't put into this list, you definitely need to be using styles. I've talked about it before, but styles. Picture content control. If you know you have pictures that you need to go into specific locations each and every time, put in some of those fields to just make it easier as a holding place for where you're actually going to bring in your images. Under the insert tab, play around with quick parts, right? I've talked about it some, I've talked about it quite a bit, but that's a big one. Learn all the different things you can do with quick parts. Building blocks, right? Those building blocks, the cover pages, all of those things where we can lay things out and now we can access them at any time. And then the other one that I think is really powerful is that insert objects, text from file, right? And actually, let me hop back into here. So whether it's a template itself, or you can just bring in other, if you already had built out a portion of a document, right? We could go through, and here I'm not going to get into my templates. Let me just get into a different folder, right? Like here, here's just some of all my posts I put into LinkedIn, I save as Word documents because I'm a dork. But like here, if I just wanted to drop that into a document, it's all right there. I can, no copy and pasting, just insert object, and it will take that entire file and drop it in. So we can go and do that as easily as we want. So, play around with that, and just keep in mind, your templates are always going to be a work in progress. You're going to do some stuff and then decide, I need to make some changes to them. And again, we do it keep it in the smallest place, keep them at this, build at the micro level, right? So I need to go in, I need to work on that copyright page, just isn't working for me. Let me go and work on that template itself. And then I've saved it in a location where I know when I go to build, this is where they always are. So if I'm building it, if you're building it, if Bob's building it, like my Bob the Builder reference right there, we're all accessing those same templates. And now across the board, it's a lot easier. That being said, managing templates can be very difficult, very time consuming, right? And just the maneuvering and all of those things. If you want to see how you can automate this out even further and just make your life easier, reduce your creation time by 57%, let me know, and I can kind of give you the demonstration of what our software does as well. So you can do it on your own. It is a lot more time. You got to spend a lot more time doing it than using some software to automate it out. But I think understanding how to do it will help you across all areas. But you really want to take it to the next level, reach out to me, let me know. So speaking of that, there's my contact information. So at any point, give me a call, shoot me an email, and I can I can help you with this. And if you haven't had a chance, to shoot over to the YouTube page, if you can, take a few moments, it would mean a great deal if you could subscribe, like, comment, click on the notification bell, all of those things. It helps me out in being able to continue to do these type of things. So with that, I'm 5 minutes over for my normal goal for today. So, have a great weekend, and I will see you guys all next week. All right, take care.